right hand holds the shepherd's crook that gathers in the dust of the stars. His left hand fondles a wild ram walking with him. He is the god of the first day. It is he who is called Ammon. At the very mention of his name, priests bow the head, and mere mortals prostrate themselves in the dust. Sometimes ram and god blend together, and the curly-browed sphinx can be seen leading the flock, like this one, that the sculptor has fashioned in multiplicity, the god of called Karnak. In the time of its full splendor, this citadel could only be reached by a royal canal and a sacred avenue. The Pharaoh, aboard his barge of glory, could moor here, welcomed on the holy quayside in the shade of the sycamores by the pontiff and his numberless retinue of priests with their feather fans.
The sheer size of the citadel as arose here was not designed for the state of men, but on the grand scale of God, from whom all things flowed. Flowers of blood, granaries of things, fame and power, death and survival. And if one of you this evening were to voice the question that you are whispering in your hearts, who art thou, Ammon? The answer would proceed from these walls, these lintels, these pedestals, these secret chambers, these higher motives. For the answer is written everywhere, in thousands of different hieroglyphics. I am the father of fathers, the mother of mothers, and the bull of the seven celestial kind. I open my mouth to speak in the midst of silence. I cause to be that men should have a path on which to tread. I open the eyes of all that they might see. My right eye is the day. My left eye is the night. And the waters of the Nile spurt from my sandals. Ammon, father of all things, had for wife the goddess Amun, who sat a little below, wearing a royal headdress of vulture feathers. Near to the father and mother, the son, Thomas, standing rigid as a mummy, the crescent moon picked out upon his unborn head. They made up the Karnak tribe, the holy family, for whom, and for 2,000 years, ceaselessly, complex fortifications were built by the hand of the family. Here in this place, I sit. Fruit the resting place of the holy rocks beside the bed. It is made up of 3 contiguous sandstone chapels. The
chapel of Ammon's rock is to the center. The chapel of Pharaohs is to the east. The chapel of Amun to the west. I believe this edifice is worthy of Ammon, the whirling round to their lips, the glory city.
Conceived that more than one resting place was needed for the sacred parts of the Holy Family. So, midway between the sanctuary and the river, I brought into being this edifice, a veritable temple with pylons guarded by colossi, peristyle courtyard, pillared hall, and sanctuary.
Ammon, the youthful pharaoh who re-established Ammon in all his power and glory after the treachery of my brother. I have left behind me in this courtyard nothing but this calcite sphinx.
I, Ahaka, a Nubian, reigning late in a crumbling dynasty, built this central pavilion, of which little now remains, but a specimen of the papyrus-capped gracious colonnade, and an alabaster block that served as an altar for the divine thought.
I, a pharaoh whose name is lost, so many contradictions are graven on my pedestal. I left the symbolic image of all the pharaohs, this gigantic statue rising against the western side of the second pylon, clasping to its legs the tiny figure of a beloved queen.
And I, Ramesses II, the grand elder of the Ramesses dynasty, the flame of the 19th dynasty, I claim the honor more than 3,000 years ago of having completed this second pylon you are about to pass. At its foot, I placed the stela telling of the victory of Kamoses over the Hyksos from the east. Two of my images watch over the gate of the sanctuary. Only the southern statue has remained intact, but it is enough to keep alive the memory of my august reign. For 67 years, I wore the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt. 3 royal queens shared my bed. The third was the daughter of Hittite king, the most powerful monarch of Asia Minor. You may measure the vastness of my empire, but to judge the span of my life, know that after her I married 4 of my own daughters, and that the number of my children was 92 boys and 106 girls. I, a pharaoh of the later period, a king of the twilight, Ptolemy Euergetes II, I built this marvelous gate leading to the chambers of God. The panels are of genuine cedar of the Lebanon, lined with Asian copper. May they open to you this evening and give you access to the most secret, most impressive part of the Karnak labyrinth.
This sacred lake, on the banks of which you have come to dream, for one can only understand by dreaming, this mirror set in the rock has reflected the finest firework display of antiquity.
A dazzling gleam that has lasted 20 centuries. As soon as one cluster of stars faded, another pharaoh fired another salvo. And this will be named forever the splendor of Thebes. It has been said that Thebes was the first city, the city of cities. Homer named it the city of 100 gates. For 100 trumpets sounded its fame.
Listen to the sounds of Karnak. The silence was deceptive, since the city for 20 centuries has resounded so much to the sound of song and harp that it was almost alive with music. Naturally, there are the baser tasks of the city, the crowded farmyards, the laden trellises, the papyrus presses, and the nobler tasks, the working of gold and silver, the polishing of the columns, the fashioning of the sandstone blocks.
But above all, there is the fabulous machinery of the universe. For God is in charge and is responsible for the functioning of the world.
Upon the terraces, priests, astronomers, observe the movement of the stars, are responsible for eclipses of the moon and the rising of the sun.
Other wise men, bending over their desks, keep the maps of the empire up to date, and the much more complicated maps of the kingdom of eternity. Watching over the furnaces, others supervise the mysterious metallurgical union of silver and gold into electrum, whose shining plaques would clothe the obelisks. Look now, over the river to the west bank, where the sun sets every evening behind the Valley of the Kings.
It is the shore of the dead, the beginning of the beyond.
If some lights are still shining in the Necropolis, it means that the embalmers are late at their work.
Their patron is Anubis, the somber god who prowls like a black dog around the cemeteries. Their god is Osiris, who knows all the secrets of the resurrection and watches 70 nights over the mummification workshops and the endless swaths of wrappings.
We are at the turning point of the 18th and 19th dynasties, more than 3,000 years ago. Before it, every Tutmosis and Amenophis. After it, every Seti and Ramesses. Now, we are at the moment of unbelievable sacrilege and revolution. Amenophis IV changes his name, his god, and his capital.
Above all glories, he set love supreme. And his beloved wife, Nefertiti, shared his dream of a new faith and a new city.
Ammon no longer existed. Even his name was effaced from the monuments. The new god was called Aton.
The heretical pharaoh.
Let us return for a moment to the distant centuries when the world's first great queen, Hatshepsut, was inspired to dedicate 2 golden obelisks to Ammon. Listen.
Behold, I was sitting in my palace, meditating upon the being who created me, when the voice of my heart spoke, telling me to make 2 golden obelisks for him. My spirit took fire, thinking of what the men who would later see these monuments would say. They would say, "Why this mountain of gold?" But my dream was beyond my power. My 2 obelisks were not of gold, but of single stone, hard granite without a join, and the expedition to bring the stone to me took 7 months. Now the 2 obelisks have been set up. I must finish their dedication. I shall add this. Thinking of future men who will not have seen the realization of my dream of gold, I wish at least that they may be able to say this, that my mouth was excellent in the words that issued from it, and that, even in granite, I never went back on my word.
Torn from their native land, today obelisks rise in all the capitals of the modern world. In Rome, Paris, London, Istanbul, New York.
Above the vain tumult of cities, These stones stand like fingers raised for silence, preserving the tradition of ancient Egypt's meditation. And the breath of Ammon turns the machinery of the world in the heart of the Forbidden City.
But each year, the harvest done, the grapes gathered, when the new wine rises to the head, Ammon takes a short holiday. On his barge of state, he sets forth for a honeymoon on the river.
He goes to Luxor, where he honeymoons each year with the goddess Ammon.
Yet the twilight fell over the city of God, as it falls over all things.
The boots of the great conquerors rang on the paving stones of antiquity.
Assurbanipal the Assyrian reached the gates of Thebes and defied the ancient citadel. Alexander of Macedon wished to add the title of Pharaoh to his glories.
Caesar the Roman clutched all the Mediterranean in his eager hand and opened it only to give a last caress to conquered Egypt.
Like a tree that has grown too old, Ammon himself knew no return of spring.
But the line of Aton, born of the dream of a pharaoh who was a poet, was luckier than the patriarch of Karnak. It was the one god of Akhenaton, the Our Father of the Christians and the Muslims, who raised chapels and mosques in the dust of Thebes.
Though the testimonies of a faith may fall into ruins, they do not die. The language may be lost, but it will be found. And Ammon, who reigns forever here, is not a god to be taken lightly.
He is a god of the beginning, when the earth and the waters were still mingled, as were the animals and men. He is a complex god, as powerful as the creation.
Ammon announced the salvation of man.
He also announced the salvation of the crocodile and the scarab, everything that moves, of the flowers of the earth. He deigned to assume the guise of a ram, a falcon, a goose, or a bull. He offered equality to all the companions of the universe.
And the language of the hieroglyphics is like this overwhelming faith, which, thanks to the floods of the Nile, raised these islands, these colonnades, these obelisks.
May these hieroglyphics come to life once more, to bid farewell to you, new pilgrims to Upper Egypt. Like a sudden flight of a myriad sacred birds, their spread wings sprinkling the droplets of the river like a benediction.